Hi, my name is Regine Tugade, and this is my final presentation for DSIM 604, Applied Data Visualization and Analysis. My project is called Paris 2024 Olympic Medals Analysis. I'm excited to share how I use Tableau and RStudio to explore medal trends across countries, sports, and gender at the most recent Olympic Games. As a three-time Olympian for Guam in track and field, this topic is incredibly meaningful to me. I competed in Rio, Tokyo, and most recently, Paris 2024, so I've experienced the Olympic Games firsthand. I chose this project because I wanted to turn my personal experience into a data story that could help others, whether that's athletes, coaches, or national Olympic committees, to help them better understand how countries perform and where improvements can be made. I used a dataset that contains a detailed breakdown of all medals awarded at the 2024 Paris Olympics. Each row represents one medal, and the dataset includes the athlete's name, country, sport, event, gender, medal type, and date. This stood out to me because it lets us look at performance from multiple angles, by country, sport, gender, and even over time. Most of the analysis was done using Tableau, while I used RStudio to answer some specific questions that required more flexibility. Here are the main questions I focused on throughout this project, and we'll go into detail for each of these in the next slides. Which countries won the most medals at the 2024 Paris Olympic Games? So this bar chart shows the top 20 countries based on total medal count. As expected, US and China were far ahead. France and Great Britain were neck and neck for third. This chart helped set the stage for understanding the global balance of power at the Games. Which sports had the most medals up for competition? This bubble chart shows which sports had the most medal events. Athletics and swimming were the biggest by far, which makes sense. They have the most individual and team events. It's important to keep this in mind when comparing total medal counts across countries. What is the distribution of medal type for Team USA's medals in athletics? Just a side note, athletics is synonymous with track and field. So this pie chart focuses on Team USA's medals in athletics. Out of 34 medals, they earned 14 gold, 11 silver, 9 bronze. This really shows how dominant they were, not just in participation, but in actually winning gold. Was there a gender disparity for Olympic medals won by Team USA? So here's a stacked bar chart showing Team USA's medals split by gender. Interestingly, women won more medals than men and earned more golds too. Since Paris 2024 was the first games with full gender parity in medal events, this was an important trend to analyze, especially for myself as a woman. Which countries performed the best in athletics at the 2024 Paris Olympic Games? This heat map zooms in on athletics performance by country. The darker the shade, the more medals won. The US is clearly ahead with Kenya in second, which lines up well with their well-known strength in long-distance events. Which sports have the greatest gender balance in medal distribution? So this box and whisker plot looks at how evenly medals were distributed across sports for each country. It helps us see whether a country was dominant in just one area or showed balance across multiple sports. The US and China were strong and well-rounded, while some other countries were more specialized. Which countries earned the most medals for women? Again, this is important because, as mentioned previously, Paris 2024 was the first Olympic Games where there was an equal number of medals to be earned for both male and female. So this stacked bar chart shows the top countries in terms of women's medal wins. So the US came out on top, followed by China and Australia. This isn't much of a surprise because we already know US and China were pretty dominant in overall total medal count. Australia is a new contender here, and they have a pretty respectable medal count for women. Which event group in athletics did Team USA perform best in? So switching over to R really quick, I looked at which event groups in athletics Team USA performed best in. So it's divided by event group. So sprints, jumps, throws, distance, and other. So other falls into the category of like race walking or road races, kind of like one-off events. So the sprints clearly stand out with strong showings in the 100 meter and 200 meter events. Distance and field events saw fewer medals, which could be areas for growth in future games. So just some little history. Team USA has always been pretty dominant in sprints in track and field, overall and also especially in the Olympics. Although interestingly, there hasn't been a gold medalist American in quite some time. But they have really good depth. On which days of the 2024 Olympics were the most medals awarded? So this chart shows the number of medals awarded each day during the Olympics. As expected, the second half of the games had the most medals awarded, since most finals happen toward the end of the schedule. So for example, in track and field, there's a good amount of preliminary and semifinal rounds for pretty much most events, to include field events like throws. So this also helped me visualize how competition builds in intensity. And the same can go for other sports as well, not just track. For example, gymnastics and wrestling and boxing and those kind of sports where they got to go through all these qualifying rounds and then to playoffs, like basketball. Which countries produced multi-medal athletes? Here I looked at which countries had athletes who earned more than one medal. Australia came out on top, likely because of swimming, where one athlete can compete in several events, also similar to track and field. It's a great way to measure not just depth of talent, but individual consistency. This is also interesting in that Australia, although they're pretty big in size, their overall medal count is not, in the top three, but they had a pretty significant amount of medals won by women, and then also with the most multi-medal athletes as well. How do medal counts vary across continents in sport? So this is my Tableau dashboard, which brings together several of the previous views. You can filter by continent, sports, medal type, and gender all in one interactive space. This is especially useful for Olympic committees or coaches who want quick, flexible insights without needing to, crunch numbers one by one or manually. For my story point, I looked into whether hosting the Olympics really provides an advantage. So does hosting the Olympics create a home field advantage? France nearly doubled its medal count in 2024 compared to Tokyo 2021. So Japan showed a similar trend. They performed better when they hosted. This kind of insight can actually help committees make decisions about hosting because it shows how big an impact it can have on performance. And I'm sure you might have heard over the years how hosting the Olympic Games is a big money spender. So it's really expensive, and there's a lot of argument over whether it has a good ROI. But at least it can be based on this, justified on athletic performance. So the effect of data visualization. What I learned is that data visualization turns massive, complex data sets into something you can actually act on. Instead of just seeing numbers, you get insights. Who's doing well, where, and why. So this is crucial not only for Olympic planning, but in any business or policy setting where data needs to get real decisions. Lessons learned. One thing I learned is that Tableau is great for exploration, but advanced visualizations take effort. I really enjoy how easy it is to just drag and drop things here and there, and it actually was a much smaller learning curve than RStudio. But creating things like dual axis charts or story points meant I had to really understand how to use Tableau. RStudio was more technical, but allowed me to dig deeper into specific questions and look at much deeper analysis. So the biggest lesson, I guess, is just taking things step by step, and also making sure that the data set I choose, I make sure I clean it and that it works with what I'm trying to illustrate on Tableau and on RStudio. So just getting down to really just cleaning is the biggest thing. Usefulness of data visualization. So this project showed me that data visualization isn't just about charts, it's about telling stories and driving action. Whether you're working in sports, business, healthcare, being able to turn raw data into meaningful insights is a huge advantage. In my case, combining personal experience as an Olympian with these new skills made the work even more rewarding. It was something I enjoyed doing, something I enjoyed looking at, and something I genuinely have an interest in. That's all I had. Thank you so much for watching my presentation. It's been a great experience, and I really enjoyed what I learned in this class.